Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my word of the day is reality. And I've been thinking about it. I was just had kind of an epiphany while I was waiting to come on the air live. And basically my show, one of the reasons I like to do this show, and my hope is that it is a certain type of reality check, because it seems like it's getting harder and harder to find real news, real facts, because even Fox News, and we're not going to do a story about them right now, but we might do it later, is kind of going off the deep end, man. I mean, they had Shepard Smith yesterday crying on the air. I don't know if you saw it. But anyway, who watches that? He's one of those shows I watch so you don't have to. But the word of the day is reality. The world or state of things, this is a definition, the world or state of things as they actually exist, as opposed to an idealistic or notional idea of them. And so I looked up the word notional too, and it's a pretty interesting definition they had here. Notional is existing only in the imagination. And man, there are so many things that are existing only in the imagination. When you think about Donald Trump derangement syndrome, it's only in the imagination. I mean, think about it. And this wasn't the point, but it just kind of popped in my head, so I'm going to pop it out there. The whole Mueller report, man, it exists in the imagination, because think about it at the core of what the progressives who are pushing this and the fake news media that you're not going to get here at JMT. We're all about the real news in a comic sort of way. You know, I want to be seriously entertaining. It's one of my goals. We're going to have a great show today, by the way. So stick around. I'll get to the point in just a moment. But think about it. The whole Mueller investigation is part of this progressive distortion of reality, or in there, it's notional. It's totally an imagination, because what they want you to believe, and this is why I say at the core of the story, they want you to believe that Donald Trump basically lived his whole life to prepare for one day not only being a billionaire playboy, which we all knew who he was, those of us, we elected him to drain the swamp, not necessarily as moral guidance, although he's more moral than most of them, but that Trump lived his whole life waiting just for the moment that he could become a Manchurian candidate and a pocket puppet of Vladimir Putin. I mean, how crazy is that? How far beyond reality do you have to believe even one iota of that, let alone, that Trump is in lockstep with Russia? I mean, it's just crazy. But let's go on with some stories today. I wanted to pick one here right off the bat that deals with a whole different sense of reality than I live in. And this is coming to you from USA Today. And my little self-title to it is Reality versus Narrative. So there's a narrative out there, and then there's the reality of it. Because sometimes there's right, wrong, people have different, and there's reality. And sometimes people will fight over things, and they're not even fighting over anything real. But this is real. ICE agents record for arrest of undocumented immigrants with no criminal record. So it says ICE agents, I need to reread that so we get it right. ICE sets record for arrest of undocumented immigrants with no criminal record. First of all, that's impossible. That is not possible. The whole title of this article is impossible. Now, am I saying that ICE couldn't make an arrest that was unwarranted and illegal or something? Sure. Like if they arrested me for saying that I'm an illegal alien, well, they would be wrong, right? So I mean, I'm like a fifth or sixth generation here in Florida, where I'm from. My ancestors had land here before Florida actually became a state. So anyway, what it's saying here is that ICE has arrested undocumented alien immigrants that have no criminal record. That is not possible. Now, am I saying, before I get too deep in this, that all immigrants are like murder and rapists? No, I'm not saying that. But anyone who came in this country illegally has committed a crime, Period. So it's not possible in reality. Now, the narrative is one thing, but it's not possible in reality for an ICE agent to arrest an undocumented alien, in other words, an illegal alien. I guess we'll be banned for Twitter for saying that, but an illegal alien that doesn't have a criminal record. They committed a crime by getting here, period. So it's crazy to start with. But let's move on. Federal immigration agents under President Donald Trump have set a new record for arrest of undocumented immigrants who don't have a criminal record, according to data released Thursday. As I said, that's not possible. Now, they could arrest a record amount of people, but the reality is, as I say, they've all committed a crime right off the bat by coming into this country illegally. It's almost like just saying that someone, okay, they broke in your house. They cut the, how they cut the fence with the stuff from Home Depot, stealing wire like we talked about yesterday. But there's no crisis at the border. But let's just say someone broke in your house and the cops got there and they arrested him, and they turn around and say, well, I haven't stolen anything yet. I'm not, you can't, I haven't done, yeah, I kicked the door in and came in and I'm looking around, but I haven't taken anything, so why are you arresting me? They're arresting you because you broke in the house. You don't have to take anything. That's actually a separate charge. And so the mere fact that they broke into our house, which we call the United States of America, is a criminal act. Does that make them terrible people? No. As a matter of fact, I've said many, many times, many people who come here illegally would make fine citizens, without a doubt. They just need to come through it the right way. Under President Barack Obama, immigration and customs enforcement agents focused their efforts on arresting undocumented immigrants who had been convicted of crimes. Well, thank you for doing that. While living in the U.S. during Obama's final month in office, 82% of people arrested by ICE had a criminal record. In other words, what they're saying is 82% of the people they arrested had committed a crime beyond the crime of breaking into the country. But I thought illegal immigrants don't commit crimes. So why would they be arresting them? They don't commit crimes. They're just adding to our economy, right? Meaning just 18% of all arrests were of people who were simply undocumented and committed no other crimes. And I've said this before, but as I say, if I say it bears repeating, that's called selective enforcement. And this is beyond just immigration. Let me just tell you, what you don't want when it comes to law enforcement, you do not want selective enforcement. In other words, for the law enforcement agency to determine which crimes are worthy of arresting or not. That's not the job of law enforcement. The job of law enforcement is to enforce the law, and then the judicial system determines your guilt or innocent and what you ultimately price you'll pay if you're found guilty. You do not want police officers, in this case ICE agents, deciding which laws to enforce, because that, my friends, leads to corruption. That is the basis for all corruption, deciding which laws to enforce selectively. It may be you only enforce the laws you get paid to enforce. In other words, someone says, I'll pay you not to look the other way. That's the type of selective enforcement. So at the core of any type of law enforcement corruption is this concept of selective enforcement. You do not want that. If you got a law on the books that you don't want to enforce, you need to get rid of it. Not pick and choose, not have law enforcement officers empowered to pick and choose which laws to enforce. That is and I understand the reality of it is they have to do that, but you definitely don't want to make it a policy, because that leads to corruption, absolutely. Trump campaigned on a promise, according to this article, and this is coming to you, or this is just some of their factual information, I suppose. And I'm not arguing the data at all here, by the way. Trump campaigned on a promise to target bad hombres, including murderers, violent criminals, and gang members. I don't see anything wrong with that, right? But after assuming office, he ordered ICE to arrest all undocumented immigrants it encountered. So why do you think about that? Why did he have to order them to do that? So he had to order them to do their job. Because they had been ordered not to, as we will see in just a minute. they encounter, no matter their criminal background. They already have a criminal background if they're here illegally, period. I'm not saying they're all like violent criminals, but they have made an offense, which is a reality check. We might ought to do that on the show more often, just have an official reality check. But I think my whole show is a reality check, to be honest with you. That has led to a consistent drop in the percentage of people arrested by ICE who have a criminal record. And that's wrong. How? How's this wrong? Wow. I mean, wow. Why is this wrong? Douglas Revlin, communications director for America's Voice, a group that advocates for immigrants, said, which is probably anti-ICE, said Congress provides ICE with only enough money, check this out, to deport about 400,000 people a year. So ICE is funded at a level that will allow them to selectively, I suppose, enforce our deportation laws at the tune of 400,000 a year. Using these limited resources on undocumented immigrants with no criminal record, he said, shows that Trump views the issue as more of a political issue than a law enforcement issue. I would maintain it's just the opposite, that if you use selective enforcement, that is a political issue. To simply enforce the laws to the best of your ability that are on the books, that may sound radical, but it actually is not political. That's how you make sure it's not political, because when you selectively enforce the laws, it becomes totally political. So this guy doesn't know what the heck he's talking about, which is not surprising. But let me just get this point. So this really stands out. This is where you got to listen to like JMT to find this, to think about these kind of things. So let's go back and look at this figure of 400,000. Now, that he's saying that is the total amount they can afford to do. So I would say if there's not enough money to deport all the people who are here illegal or coming here illegally, then what we need to do is not selectively enforce, but we need to increase the funding to meet the problem, which is what Donald Trump is trying to do. Part of the wall is part of meeting this crisis. But it's no emergency, so we're just going, oh, we can only deport 400,000. Okay, we've reached that point. Now everybody else, come on in. I mean, that's really the effect of it. Now think about this when you try to put it in context. 400,000 people is what they're officially deporting with the budget number. This is an advocate for illegal immigration, basically. Do you realize that that's essentially a city the size of Atlanta, Georgia? That is essentially the size of a city of Atlanta, Georgia. So in other words, we're deporting a city the size of Atlanta every year. And that's all we can afford to do. So that means there's a city the size of probably New York coming in here every year. So, I mean, the way they put these figures out, they just don't think about it, what they're really saying here. Revlin goes on to say, we're wasting resources deporting a lot of people who are assets to their communities. Man, I just keep hearing that. Assets to their communities. I mean, it's asinine to think that. So we're going to bring more poor, unskilled people into this country, and somehow that's going to improve the nation. How? And I don't want to hear this thing where they're doing work that Americans won't do. That could be true only because of the welfare state, really. And we, under Donald Trump's leadership, we now are cutting the amount of people that are on food stamps at record levels, which is something to celebrate. It doesn't mean he's cutting food stamp programs. It's cutting the need for them. In other words, people are getting jobs because in its essence, the human spirit wants to work. It's when welfare creates a situation that plays to our worst attributes of not wanting to work. What is it? The Green New Deal of Ocasio-Cortez, those unable to work and those unwilling to work. That's the truth. That's the reality check that they don't want you to hear. But it says that we're wasting, and I like this part right here, assets who have families and mortgages and careers and car notes, and we're going after them with the same vigor that we're going after kidnappers, murderers, and bank robbers. Simply that part, that last part is just a lie. I can tell you flat out, it's just a lie. They are not pursuing people who are simply here illegally with the same vigor that they're pursuing bank robbers. That's just not happening, and murders and rapists. It's not true. It is not the reality. It is the narrative. But here's something that caught my eye as he's talking about people here with families. I understand, and I'm not saying that all these people here are illegal. All dreamers, for instance, are bad people. Matter of fact, I would assume that the vast majority of the so-called dreamers are probably fine, outstanding people who are committing or contributing to our society. But this idea that they have mortgages, careers, and car notes, what that really shows you is how long we have ignored the problem of the border. Going all the way back to Reagan and the amnesty that he, I don't know if he unwittingly did it, to use the progressives' word, but he trusted them to do what they said, and he was snookered in a way, so to speak. But this paragraph shows you just how long we have ignored the problem. Because here's a reality: here our border laws, our immigration laws are broken. Now, that's just simply not true. They're not broken. They may be overwhelmed because we've ignored it so long, but that is the crux of the problem. The reason why we have such an immigration problem here is not because our laws need reforming. It's because they need enforcing. That's the problem. They haven't been enforced properly until Donald Trump came along. And he's only been here 2 years, and they're already saying, oh, it's a problem. I guess the emergency is that Donald Trump is president. That's the emergency. And they're trying their damnedest to do away with that, right? And we've been covering that for the last few days. All the craziness, the willingness they're willing to go to they're willing to destroy America to get rid of Donald Trump. That's becoming more evident. Back to the article, Billy Bob says, if you haven't seen my psychic sidekick, if you're new to the show, first of all, welcome. We appreciate it. Our Facebook site has gone over 9,000 followers thanks to you. So if you haven't already gone directly to John Martin Talks Facebook site, liked it, and shared it with your friends, I wish you would do so today. Really, I really appreciate it. That's how we're going to keep getting this word out, this news out. Also, if you feel like you're being censored and you're not being able to hear what we're saying on a regular basis, go directly to my website, johnmartintalks.tv, and you can see all of my videos, not only live, but all of the podcast one there as well. But this is Billy Bob Bass, my psychic sidekick. He has a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at BillyBobBass1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. And we're frequently Twitter twats, especially on the weekends, so we'll see. The dramatic change in the way ICE arrests undocumented immigrants came following a February 2017 directive from the Department of Homeland Security that instructed all immigration agents to target all undocumented agents. So what? That's a dramatic change. Really? Really? Dramatic. If true, to use their dramatic change word, if true, what that really means is prior to Donald Trump, the law wasn't being enforced. Or if it was being enforced, it was being enforced selectively, totally politically, which is the opposite of what this article is arguing. And here is the reason why it's been selective enforcement. This next paragraph. Under Obama, ICE agents pursuing a specific undocumented immigrant with a criminal record were under orders not to round up everyone else they found along the way. So they were ordered to ignore the law. Think about how dangerous that is. And this, we're talking about immigration, but in general, when you order law enforcement officers to ignore the law, that is a dangerous precedent to set. Get rid of the law. Change the law. If we want to have a total reform of our immigration law, I don't think it's needed or warranted. I don't want it to happen, but I'd rather have that happen than ignore the law. Change the Constitution rather than ignore it. See, that's what the left wants to ignore it. And they talk about changing it, but really they just want to ignore it, which to me is much more dangerous place to be in. So that meant ICE agents raiding a house to find an undocumented immigrant with a violent criminal record, for example, were not supposed to question everyone else that's living there about their immigration status. Name one single case where this is the same in real life. So in other words, another scenario, let's say that someone goes in and arrests someone that is harboring a fugitive, maybe bank robber, maybe murder. So you're not supposed to question anyone that's in that house about that crime? You're supposed to just go, well, nothing to see here. I mean, that is not how law enforcement is supposed to work. And think about this, man. As I say, ordering not to enforce the law. The mayor of Oakland, these progressives, they're not, I mean, they double down, man. They'll expose, as I say, take them at their word or their actions, because the mayor of Oakland went beyond just saying don't enforce the law. She actually actively informed criminals, not just people who were here undocumented, but people who were wanted for other crimes, that ICE was coming their way. She informed them, and it's the documented fact that there were convicted felons and people who were charged with felonies that were able to elude the law because of this. And this is why you get so empathetic and sympathetic to like these angel moms and angel parents that have lost children. Like the guest I had on, go back and look at my podcast of it. I had Sabina Durden on here, and she's an angel mom. Her only son was killed by an undocumented, in other words, illegal alien that was on his third felony DUI at the time that he took her son's life. Third. And so we're not supposed to round these people up. We got the mayor of, and she's from California, by the way. So you got mayors of major cities in California, the mayor of Oakland, and she was applauded for doing this by the progressive left, warning known criminals that the law is coming for you. I mean, that's how far we have moved away from, enforcing the rule of law. That's why President Trump is so radical, because he actually enforces the law. Through a series of Homeland Security memos issued in 2017, 1 month after Trump took office, those restrictions were removed. So think about it, removed. Basically what Trump did that was so radical is he came in and just said, we're going to enforce the law. Here's one of several memos. We're not going to read all of them, but this one jumped out at me. This is a memo that they had to put out to ICE. Department personnel have full authority to arrest or apprehend an alien whom an immigration officer has probable cause to believe is in violation of the immigration law. That was the memo, one of them. And that's considered radical. Think about that. They simply sent out a memo that says, hey, do your job. And that's radical. No, don't ignore it. Do your jobs. You see somebody committing a crime, arrest them. That is radical, and that is how far we have moved from the center. ICE agents have followed through. They have arrested an average of 4,219 undocumented immigrants without a criminal record. They already have one. At each month of the Trump administration and the final 2 years under Obama, the agents averaged 1,352 such arrests a month. President Trump campaigned on the rule of law. Promises made, promises kept. So you snowflakes, get over it. First of all, Donald Trump is still your president. And guess what he's doing? What makes him such, and I will tell you right now, I agree with the left. I do. And don't tune out till you hear what I'm saying. I agree 100% with the left. Donald Trump is the most radical president in my lifetime. Because no other person who's run for president and actually obtained the office has kept their promises like Donald Trump. No other president in my lifetime has enforced the rule of law according to the books like Donald Trump. So if that makes him radical, and it does, then give me the radical Donald J. Trump over any of the rest of those weak-minded, mealy-mouthed ones we've had before of all parties, man. I'd rather have the blunt-spoken, hardwood truth of Donald Trump than all the rest of them combined. But hey, that's just me. The new members release, and I must be a racist, Nazi, MAGA hat wearing SOB to believe that, man. Guilty as charged. No, I'm not all those things, but I am Captain Whitebread, by the way. I'm willing to speak the truth. I'm not worried about being called all those names, because just because someone calls me a name, I don't have to own it. I just worry about the sticks and stones that they want to throw, because they're really, that old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Well, the left is not only calling my name, but they're hitting us with sticks and stones. And that I got an issue with. The new numbers released Thursday also show a drop in the overall number of arrests made by ICE agents 11,178 undocumented immigrants arrested in December marked the lowest monthly total of the Trump administration. This is very important, which Asher, who is the head of this, said is a direct result of migrant caravans that have been flooding the southwest border. Let me give you the reality of what that paragraph is saying. The paragraph is saying that so many people are flooding into our country illegally that our ICE agents can't do their job. So the ICE agents can't do their job because they're just being overwhelmed with the number of people flooding the border. And they're being called to do what is not their job, protect the border. That's the border agent, but ICE agents are being called. So, but there's no emergency. There's no emergency. We have law enforcement can't even do their jobs because they're being overwhelmed. But it's not a crisis. It's a manufactured crisis, right? Think about this. Going back to my earlier house issue, it's basically what they're saying here is it'd be like a police officer coming and you get a call. You call 911 and say, hey, somebody's breaking in my house. And they tell you, well, I hate to tell you, but so many houses are being broken into right now that we can't help you. I mean, that's really what they're saying here. And it's a sad commentary. It's a sad reality. It's not imagination. It's real. All right, we're going to move on to another story. Let me check the time. Oh, we're doing great. This goes back to a reality check, and people are getting woke. And when they're getting woke, guess what's happening? They're running. Hey, I'm awake now. I'm so awake, I'm running. I'm getting the heck out of here. Exit stage left or whatever. My little title to this is going to come, I'm going to read you an article from the New York Post, but my little subtitle is Progressives Fear Voters Awakening to Reality. As I say, New York Post. Here's the actual title of the article. More than a third of New Yorkers say they can't afford to live here. And they're talking about the city primarily, but to a larger extent, the actual state as well. More than a third of all city residents say they can't afford to live anywhere in the state, much less the Big Apple, and believe economic hardships will send them packing in 5 years or less, according to the dismal new poll. So I guess they're not worried about the 12 years they got left to live, according to Ocasio-Cortez. They're not worried about that, but maybe they're out there running to their bucket list. My bucket list is to get the hell out of New York while you still can. But I just asked the people in New York, isn't that what you voted for? Isn't that what you voted? Didn't you vote for all? I'm not saying everyone. Obviously, they're not everyone. But the majority of New Yorkers have voted for people that put these progressive taxes on them. Think about, I was talking to Ward Scott, who comes on prior to us. He's part of our growing family of shows. He's got the Ward Scott Files. You can go to his Facebook site as well. I would encourage you to do so. And he does a lot on local politics. He's kind of the authority on it. And I was asking him, we just had a recent city election, city of Gainesville, which is home to the University of Florida. And we won the first game of the NCAA, so I'll take a little personal privilege. Go Gators on that. I hope your team does well until they meet us, but that's a side note. But we just had a mayoral election here in Gainesville, which I'll tell you is one of the most progressive cities on the planet. I'll put us against San Francisco any day. I'm waiting for the poop map to come out any day for the city of Gainesville. It is about as liberal as they can get. And these liberals are so emboldened, these progressives are so emboldened that you take them at their word. I mean, the guy who won re-election of mayor, he won by well over 60% of the vote. His signs, I'll leave his name out. His signs literally say on his campaign yard signs, underneath his name, it says progressive values, proven leadership. Progressive values, proven leadership. So he's touting the fact that he's got progressive values. That's how liberal we are, and proven leadership. In this case, proven leadership that not just under his watch, but he's added to it. The city of Gainesville used to be one of the most financially stable cities on the planet, man. I'm telling you. And there's reasons for it. But since this progressive wing has totally taken over, the city is now billions of dollars in debt, over $1 billion in debt, to be fair. And they had a meeting. I don't know how it went because I don't pay. I've pretty much given up on them. But they actually had a meeting last night where they were discussing, because they've been downgraded by one of these rating agencies more than once, but just recently, and they're going to have to try to bond out another $10 million. And if you knew the history of our area, you would know that that is just unbelievable, because they were a city that was essentially debt free, and now they're over $1 billion in debt. Proven leadership and progressive values. I couldn't say it any better than that. I agree with you, sir. Welcome to your reelection. At least you're telling the truth. That's 41%. Back to this poll. That's 41% of city dwellers who say they can't cope with New York's high cost of living, according to a Quinnipiac poll published Wednesday. I say take progressives at their word. I said that you New Yorkers voted for this. I realize that some of you didn't, but your mayor up there has a message for any of you that consider yourself like middle of the road moderates or anything like that, let alone conservatives. They got a message for you.
By the way, when it comes to the 2020 Democratic nomination process, centrists need not apply.
Now, he was on Bill Maher talking about people entering into the Democratic primary for president, that they don't need any centrists, need not apply. But hey, if he's saying that, we'll take him at his word. He's basically telling you, if you're a New Yorker and you're a centrist, let alone one of them filthy conservative MAGA hat wearing guns that are the Nazi dudes and all that, that hate babies. Oh, by the way, we're not the ones killing babies, it's you guys. But anyway, you need not apply. So if you're in New York and you think you're going to change things, it's probably like here in Gainesville, you probably need to get the heck out. But I would actually hope you'd stay there and change it, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Separately, 41% fear they'll be forced to pull up stakes and seek greener pastures where the economic climate is more welcome. Governor Cuomo, who said America was never that great, even though his entire family history proves different, with the majority of New Yorkers voted for overwhelmingly, by the way. He even got more votes in the district that Ocasio-Cortez won in than she did. That's just a side note. So that tells you how many people were for this guy, Cuomo. So he not only did he sign a baby-killing bill, for the 4th trimester, as Rush Limbaugh, I got to give him credit, says in that, baby born alive, make him come and just kill him. He signed that bill into law and cheered it as well. But Cuomo just recently went before the voting public, so to speak, and bemoaned the SALT, which is what they call the tax cuts that President Trump pushed through, basically because they wouldn't allow states, these high-tax states, high-income tax states, which Florida doesn't have one, by the way, so come here but don't bring your voting record with you, that you couldn't deduct your state income tax from it. And Cuomo, and he's probably right on this, has come out and said that since that, basically we're taxing the rich. When he talked about taxing the rich, he literally admitted we've already done that, and they're running away. They're getting the hell out of there. So people who can afford to get out are getting out. So, hey, just listen to the people you elected. They're telling you what time it is. But Ari Burton, a 49-year-old paralegal and born and bred New Yorker from Forest Hill, Queens, said they are making this, talking about the Big Apple, this city a city for the wealthy, and they are really choking out the middle class. And the Socialist Democrats want to bring that to you everywhere. That's why they want to do away with the Electoral College, by the way, so that we can become a country of city-states, so we can literally be the Hunger Games. That's what this guy's talking about. He may not realize it, but he's describing exactly what the progressive left's nirvana is. A bunch of city-states with the rest of us yahoos out here. As long as we're fenced in, they'll probably let us wear our old hats and stuff. And as long as we're farming, farmer in the deal, and we E-I-E-I-O cowboy, and raising beef, as long as they don't fart, they'll probably tolerate us. How does a cow, that'd be interesting that you put a cow that maybe can breed, talking about genetics, we'll breed cows that don't fart, they just blow up, boom. A lot of my friends, this person goes on to say, have had to move to Florida, Texas, or Oregon. I'm not sure about Oregon. It's pretty low. I know why they moved to Florida, Texas. You go to your local shop, he says, and it's $5 for a gallon of milk and $13 for shampoo. Wow. $5 for a gallon of milk, it's about $3.50 to $4 where I live, depending on where you buy it. But $13 for shampoo? What the hell are they doing up there, man? Shampoo, man. I thought that stuff. Maybe I'll get an advertisement with some cheap shampoo out there, because there's some of them out there. So, do you know how much 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartment is? Yeah, I do, because I lived up there for 4 years. $1,700. What's wrong with this picture? Here's what's wrong with it. You voted. I'm not talking about you individually, sir, but you have voted for this over time. The New Yorkers have voted to tax themselves time after time after time. They vote for these people, just like the sign I said in the mayoral race here at Gainesville. You could have put the same sign out there that said, you know, progressive values, proven leadership. That's exactly what Como, de Blasio have. They could use that same. They have progressive values and proven leadership on that. They will lead you to socialism, period. That's what, I mean, they're keeping their promise. They are keeping their promise to make them the highest tax states in the country. That's what they basically promised to do, and they're keeping that promise. So in a way, even though they're like the anti-Trump, in a way they're keeping their promise. They're not. It's not like you've been lied to over and over. And if you have, think about it. How many times is Como being reelected? How long do you have to keep reelecting this dude to realize he is what he is? You know, voters have. That's one thing about vote. My dad used to say this a long time ago. We get the politicians we deserve, and he was a political figure. When it's true, we've got to wake up, because like I've said before many times, Thomas Jefferson, you can't be both ignorant and free, because you want what never was and never will be. That is pure and simple. That's ignorance and apathy that I'm battling daily here at JMT. You keep voting for these yahoos. If you vote for people who espouse the Green New Deal, guess what? You might just be one of them jackasses one day riding a jackass trying to get out of New York. And it may take you a long time to go from Albany out of New York. Maybe, you know, just to get across the Brooklyn Bridge on a jackass might not take you that long, or which one goes to, the Washington Bridge goes to Jersey, right? That ain't going to be no picnic either. But this person goes on to say, city dwellers were not surprised that their neighbors have such a bleak outlook. I'm definitely not going to be here in 5 years from now, said Dexter Benjamin, 23, a native New Yorker. He said, I'll probably move to Florida or Texas, where most of my family has moved. Just don't bring your politics like your luggage with you. Don't vote for the same BS that you voted for in New York when you get to Texas or Florida. Don't do it. I think I can firmly speak for Texans out there. Don't do it. Don't do it. So, but here's another thing. Why not stay where you are and change it? Just like I tell people in Venezuela and places like that. Why not? All the people coming across the border, why not stay there and change it? Maybe it's too late. I don't know. But let me just tell you, I've been saying that you voted for this, and I'm not speaking to all New Yorkers, but the vast majority of you voted for this. And I got one big way to prove it right here. Let's go back to the 2016 election. Now, you had ultimately a choice between Hillary Clinton and Donald J. Trump. Now, Hillary Clinton is what we used to call in the South here a carpetbagger in New York. In other words, she didn't have nothing to do with New York, but she moved there, and guess what? Poof, became a senator and called it her home. I guess I'm not bemoaning, you know, that people move there. But Donald Trump is about as New York as you can get. He not only was born and raised there, multiple generations of his family, but he invested his money in his fame and fortune and his future in the city of New York, right? I mean, if you don't believe it, it's well, we're at Trump everywhere. You can love him or hate him, but the fact is the fact that Donald J. Trump is a native New Yorker who invested his life's work there, basically. And he's, you know, thank God he's gone other places. And how was he rewarded for this? The 2016 election, Hillary won, right? She won. But have you seen the numbers? Let me give you the basically official numbers. Hillary Clinton got 4,556,118 votes in the state of New York. Donald Trump got 2,819,533. So Donald Trump lost by just short of 2 million votes in New York. So if you assume, and I don't assume this, but if you do, that the conservatives or moderates are the ones moving out of New York, it's only going to get worse up there because you're going to be leaving behind more lefties. But I guarantee you that quite a few people who are at least espousing that they want to get the hell out of New York voted for Hillary Clinton. The numbers don't lie. So you voted for this. Now, Donald Trump has exposed what it means to live in these. That's what SALT did, by the way. That tax thing, all it did, it didn't hurt taxpayers of New York. It exposed what they have been voting for all along. And you taxpayers in places like California, New York, you bear a certain amount of responsibility to this. I'm not saying don't come to Florida or Texas, whatever. I would welcome you, but don't bring your crappy politics with you. I'm telling you that now. Please don't. I'm begging you not to. The poll also found that minorities have a grimmer outlook on their economic prospects. Asked to rate their economic situations, non-whites disproportionately rank their situations as poor and not good compared to whites. Meanwhile, while whites were quicker to report the situations as excellent or good. Okay, so they're saying they got white privilege. But I would ask you, if white privilege is real, and these people are white, and they're saying it's better for them, and blacks are saying it's worse for them, people of color, why you keep voting the same way? Why? I mean, come on. President Trump, you may not like him. I mean, he's done more for people of color than any president I'm aware of. Certainly the last one we had that was of color, right? I mean, black unemployment at an all-time low. There, he's the worst racist ever. Donald Trump, without a doubt. Don't tune out till you hear me. Some of y'all, he is absolutely, like I said, he's radical. He's also the worst racist ever because he sucks at it. He's terrible at it. That's what makes him so bad. He's the worst because he sucks at it. Black unemployment is at an all-time low. Black employment, all-time high. Black home ownership, all-time high. Black-owned businessship, up 400%. I mean, good Lord, if he's a white supremacist, he's the worst one I've ever seen. That's for sure. But Donald Trump came to Detroit, who probably is going through a similar thing, and said, hey, in a black church, he didn't give you this long speech about and promises, hey, this is what I'm going to do for you, you know, and all that. He just said, hey, you might as well vote for me because what you got to lose. I mean, the truth, the reality check. Donald Trump put a hardcore reality check on those parishioners in Detroit. What have you got to lose? So if you're bemoaning, if you're black, a person of color, and you're bemoaning the overtaxed lifestyle you have in New York, understand you voted for it because I didn't look into it, but I guarantee you that the percentage of African Americans that voted for Hillary Clinton or Cuomo or Bill de Blasio, Comrade de Blasio, all of them is probably in the 90 percentile or above range. So you know, it's cliche to say it, but insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. If you keep voting for these progressives, progressive values, proven leadership, if you keep voting that way, whether you're in Gainesville, Florida, New York City, or Detroit, don't be surprised if you don't end up bankrupt, because that's what's happening in my little neck of the woods here in Gainesville. Yeah, progressives, man, I'm telling you. It's kind of one of my axioms. Progressives cannot be dealt with. They can't make deals with them. They can't. The only thing a progressive can be is defeated, period. You can't reason with them. You can't deal with them. You can only defeat them. And that's one thing that President Trump is being woke to, because I think when he first came to power, he really believed he might be the art of the deal guy and could negotiate with these fools.
It's on our page. Make sure to share it out.
Yeah, it's on our page, as Jay said. Make sure to share it out far and wide, because I'm telling you, the president, he needs to learn this, and I believe he is. These progressives can only be defeated. All right, we got a few minutes left. You know, I like to bring you a story on Fridays sometimes if we don't have a guest, and we're going to have more in the near future. How you like our guests so far? You really need to go back and like on YouTube and look at our videos, or John Martin Talks TV.tv, or John Martin Talks Facebook page. And we've had some incredible guests, and more is in the works, and you will be impressed, I am sure. But I also like to bring you a little humor. You know, there's some of this stuff, and this next story is kind of a reality check, and it's humorous, but like some humor, it might be dark humor. Sometimes it's a little scary too. This is about millennials, and it's coming to you from the New York Post, and I call it woke reality. Millennials care more about dates, politics, than good sex, according to a survey. Now, I'm not claiming to be a family show, so understand that. Nobody's sleeping with the enemy these days. If you see somebody, this Bronx resident Nadine Angley said this, she told the Post this, if you see somebody who's like, I'm a moderate or a conservative, I keep swiping. I'm not sure whatever that means. I guess that's, they keep going to the next page
Tinder.
on these. Is it Tinder?
It's Tinder. I don't use it because I'm married, so, but
that,
my friends use Tinder.
Your friends, is that kind of like Fresh Fish or something like that, one of them sites where they just look? Anyway.
I don't know. I just know it's basically if you are looking for somebody, that's what you do.
Well, I, just for the record, because like my wife gave me this cup, I want you on my side of the wall. I want to stay on your side of the wall. I only knows about this because it's my job to know certain things. Anyway, this Bronx resident said she keeps swiping. Art director hasn't dated a conservative since the 2016 election. So all you guys wearing the MAGA hats, she's cut you off, man. She just cut you off. Even if she's attracted to him, she said. Yesterday, this one guy on the dating app Hinge, I don't know anything about it, it might be unhinged for all I know, seemed really great till I saw he marked himself as a conservative. I nipped that in the bud. I guess that's better than nipping you another way. So maybe you can't, maybe dude, you don't know how close you came to her. So you maybe putting a conservative will keep you from being nipped. To me, please take this for what it meant. I'm just being real with you, Back before they had all these dating services, and I'm not going to say I was, looking for 70-some virgins or whatever. I never understood that part either. But, let me tell you what my dating service consisted of. If I wanted to date a really nice girl, I went to church or maybe the laundromat. Because you can tell a lot about a woman that they don't have laundromats much anymore. But what they're washing, If they're washing the guy's clothes, you're probably out of the park. Of course, nowadays, you can't never tell. They may be wearing the same ones. Who knows? But I used to look for women that smoked or had tattoos. And now they all got tattoos, so I've probably thrown my thing. Because, you find me a woman who smokes and has a tattoo, the chances of you getting lucky are a lot higher. But, hey, I digress. But let me just tell you, there's an old song. We're talking about the old days. There's a song out there about this. Before I read this next paragraph, I want to play you a little bit of Bob Dylan because I think he speaks to it pretty well. The times they are changing. Yeah, old Bob, man. I've never been a huge. The guy's a great writer, but I think Billy Bob sings better than him. Maybe we'll let him do.
I actually do. I sang in choir at church, so.
Oh, okay. Well,
learn something about me every day.
But Bob, man, he's something else. But he's right. The times they are changing, and this next paragraph shows you just how much. Angley's not alone, according to this survey. Whether red or blue, most millennials would pick their party over the best lay of their life, according to new research. Wow. You could be the best, man. You could be the Don Juan, the king. But if you're wearing one of them MAGA hats, you need not apply. Wow. I can't imagine judging them. But thank God, a lot of the women that wear the MAGA hats, they ain't too hard to look at. So, maybe we're winning that race too. I'm every kind of, just so you know, I am the least politically correct person on the planet. I'm not any kind of ish. I'm not misogynist. I'm an equal opportunity offender. I'm like South Park. Everybody is fair game. The number of millennial men and women who prioritize political party alliance over good sex has skyrocketed since 2016. Man, the Trumpster is even getting into people's sex life. Because what's changed since 2016? Donald Trump! I hate to do it, Mr. President. I love you. But apparently you are messing up some millennial sex out there.
That's the real reason they want to impeach him.
They got to get rid of him. They impeach 45. I got to get laid. Impeach 45. Good Lord. But according to data from OkCupid, I don't know what that is, The matchmaking company surveyed more than 8 million users and found that interest in dating someone with similar political beliefs has gone up 165% since 2004, while having good sex has decreased as a priority by 30%. Now, these are young people, right? Not, but man, no wonder they're so pissed off. I wonder why people like put, them the Antifa guys go out there, and gals too, put on hats because they're ashamed. I thought it was they were so ashamed of what they're doing they don't want their mama to know. But maybe they just maybe they're just pissed off because they ain't getting, they're not getting all that good conservative cowboy sex or something. I don't know, man. Specifically between 2016 and 2018, the number of women who consider politics more important than sex shot up from 27% to 42%, while for men that needle moved from 23% to 30%. Now, they need to develop a pill for that, right? They need to develop some kind of pill to help these young men and women. Maybe, a pill to help you overcome your a prejudice to MAGA or something, man. Just for the record. And, one of those pills they talk about on there, they say, if it lasts more than 4 hours, tell your doctor. Well, let me just tell you for the record. At 58 years old, if it lasts more than 4 hours, I'm telling everybody, I'm going to come on the show, and we're going to do a show just about the 4 hours. Let me tell you what happened over the last 4 hours. I'm going to call my doctor. I got a real problem here, sir. Some of these advertisements, man, like these pharmaceutical ones are the craziest, right? Side note where they tell you, if you really want to enjoy life, just take this pill, and you will be happy, joyous, and free. Now, you may shut your brains out in your They say that like really fast, like a
John, you're going to have to find somebody else to produce the show if you talk about that for 4 hours.
Here's a picture. Here's a graph. The hands say.
Maybe
I could debate Marco Rubio about who has the bigger hands. Come on, Marco, because I'm telling you, your political future in Florida is down the toilet. But maybe I can resurrect by debating our hand size or whatever. Marco, come on the show, brother. We won't have to show anything but our hands. So what's the link? Manhattan sex therapist Megan Fleming thinks dating strictly within one's party is making people comfortable, too comfortable. Now, I got to tell you, one thing I have never, now as I get older maybe, I don't know, but I've never understood the whole sex therapy thing, so maybe you could help me with that, because when I was coming along, that's why 16-year-olds don't need to vote, by the way. When I was 16 years old, I'll be honest with you, my greatest fear was that my school teacher aunt, and my mother was a school teacher, was going to call on me to come up to the blackboard at an inconvenient moment. Because I had no control. I had no control over that, when I was 16. I wasn't worried about voting, I can tell you that. Some of us are sicker than others. But if you're only exposing yourself, I don't mean literally, to people who think, this is what this therapist said, who think like you're living in a silo and missing out on opportunities, said Fleming. She believes that less intellectual tension could translate to less of a lustful spark in relationship. She encourages her patients to get out of their comfort zone in love and in bed. So that explains a lot to me, really. I just learned something. Because I've wondered all the time why these people are so pissed. Why is the left, why is it if you go to a Democratic Party meeting, they're like, and they're all pissed off? Because, according to this lady here, they are suffering from intellectual tension. They're so caught up on the Green New Deal, and riding jackasses. And hey, maybe we better put a warning out there to the jackasses, because they may be getting more than they thought they bargained for. If these people come in sexually frustrated, they may be looking for a stump train mule. So hey, you jackasses out there, beware, because there's some tension-filled people coming your way. This was the case for, here we go, time. We got a few minutes left. I don't know about you, but I love this story, man. It explains.
I guess this is where the Me Too movement came from.
Yeah, I was always confused about that, by the way, Jay, the Me Too movement. I mean, because when it first came out, because you got to understand, I grew up without cell phones. So to me, when I saw the hashtag, I didn't know what a hashtag was. Hash Brown said hashtag Me Too. I thought it said pound Me Too. And
take them at their word, man.
I'm like, take them at their word. I'm going like, some of y'all might fit that category, but some of y'all, I'm going, run. You want me to pound you? I'm pounding the pavement, man. I'm out of here. But this was the case for Julie, a 27-year-old Brooklyn liberal and senior relations manager who dated a Republican for 3 years. 3 years she dated one. For political opposites, Julie said, everything was very extreme, including the sex. After a particularly frustrating politically charged conversation, we'd have makeup sex that was better than normal. So she'd get in a political fight, and then they'd go, let's get it on. You know, makeup sex is pretty good. It will wear you out in more ways than one. But maybe, you know, I've just got another enlightening because there's a story out there we didn't cover. Woo! See, when I used to hear that song, man, I didn't need no therapy. I used to sing that in them gals' ears back in the disco day, and I didn't even know what therapy was, man. But anyway, so this frustration she's talking about here, this makeup sex, they argue politically and then they make up. Maybe that explains Kellyanne Conway and her husband, right? Because they're apparently, he hates Trump, she loves Trump, and you wonder, why do they do this back and forth? Well, maybe it's because when they get back home, you know, maybe she's, anyway, I don't know. I'm wishing her nothing, but her husband seems to be a moron. You heard that from me. But Kellyanne, man, she's. I mean, for a guy, let me tell you this side story. For a guy who hates women, Donald Trump, man, he really sucks at that too, because he hires some of the most impressive women I've ever seen. I mean, Kellyanne Conway, man, she is the first woman. Do you know this? She's the first woman to manage a campaign all the way to the White House. The first woman ever. You'd think she'd be celebrated for that, but the left can't see that. Can't see the fact that she's an accomplished woman. And how about Sarah, well, I call her the boss Huckabee Sanders, man. She is the boss, man. So for a guy who hates and fears and, you know, women, he sure hires some really strong ones. It wasn't enough to hold them together, unfortunately. Julie and her Republican buddy broke up. Declined to give her last name for privacy reasons. I understand that. She says finds going out with fellow liberals a breath of fresh air, but she misses the adventure of being with someone very different from herself. She misses her old cowboy, I can tell you. She said, we enjoyed being challenged and challenging each other, and maybe that's something I'm still looking for, she says. She's currently single and open to being with a conservative again, depending on his belief. Well, let me tell you a quick little story, because I lived and worked in New York City for like 4 years in the mid-'80s. And I was working down in Wall Street at a big firm. I wasn't working at the firm. I was working on doing electrical work in the building. And I was on this day trading floor, right? And man, I have to tell you, for an old country boy, there was some fine looking young. You understand, I was really young, right? So I'm up on a ladder up in a drop ceiling, right? And I'm working, and this beautiful woman is there, and she's talking to all these guys. They got their Ivy League sweaters across their chairs. I mean, I'm painting this picture for you. That's a true story. And she's going, man, it would be such a great day to take off early and go window shopping. It was like a spring day, just beautiful and all that. And all these guys were just ignoring her and turning her down and whatever. And hey, this old boy, man, I came on down the, I came down the ladder and said, I put on my best Southern accent, and I said, I'd be privileged to go with you, ma'am. And she looked at me, and I wasn't kind of the big man I am now. I was fit and trim with a tool belt, man. I looked like a straight version of the guy on the Village People. I had my tool belt on, and she said, well, let's go then. And I said, all right, woman. So I went down, and I talked to my foreman, who was a New Yorker, and I told him, he said, get out of here, Martin. Go on down there, man. So, hey, it works, brother. Conservative, MAGA hat wearing, I don't know, but to me, it worked, man. Anyway.
John, your wife is on line 3.
She's on line. I've told her these stories. She knows, man. Hey, let me just tell you, I'm a little bit, I love my wife. I'm faithful to her without a doubt. I know we joke about it, but believe me right now, there is still room for somebody out there that is like me. I describe myself as I'm a little bit John Wayne, a little bit Mark Twain, and a little bit Duck Dynasty. So I hope you've enjoyed me bringing the unvarnished truth out there. I found out today, and I hope you've understood the reality check of why these dadgum progressives are so pissed off. They just need a MAGA hat man. That's what they need. Now, the Marlboro man, they need the MAGA hat man. Maybe that was the fantasy of that Smollett guy who hired the Nigerian guys. He wanted to be, you know, MAGA hat guy. They're into things different in some parts of Chicago. You know, I got open mind closed behind. I don't care. You know, just don't lie about it. Don't lie about it. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please like and share what we're doing. Push it far and wide. Go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page. Like it. Share it to other people. Go to johnmartintalks.tv and my YouTube channel. Share all that as well. And, you know, above everything else, man, I hope you have not a frustrated weekend. You find somebody to hug, whether it's sexual. I'm being serious here. Find somebody to love. Give them a hug. You know, I'm going this weekend. I tell you what I'm doing. I am taking a lovely lady to a hotel down on, then going to AAU basketball. I am taking my 11-year-old granddaughter on her first AAU basketball trip. And let me tell you, old Papa John, as she calls me, Big Papa, I am so looking forward to it. So find somebody you love. Hang them. Don't hang them. Hug them a little closer. But above all else, have a blessed day.